Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Please click the subscribe button and click the bell icon and never miss another update from Almighty Java. In this video, we will see how to integrate exception handler in Spring Boot. Before starting anything, first, I'm going to demo you all the requests of the Book REST API project. Let's start the project. Server started. Let's open the README file. See, here are the details of all requests. First, I'm going to demo you all the positive cases, so let's hit the get request. So to test all, I'm going to use Postman. See, it is showing only one record in the JSON array. Now let's query for the specific ID. See, it is working. Now let's test the post request. Here we need to add headers. Let's add content type as application JSON. Here let's copy request body from README file. Now click on the send button. See, it is working. Now let's test the put request. So for this case, request body must contain the book ID, so let's copy the request body from the post method response. Here let's change the book price from 630 to 650. Now click on the send button. See, it is working. Now let's test the get request again. See, it is showing two records now. Now let's test the delete request. Here let's delete the second record. See, book deleted successfully. Let's test the get request again. See, it is showing only one record. Let's quickly repeat the complete flow. See, everything is working fine. Now let's try with the invalid input. So instead of 3, let's query for 5. See, it is throwing an internal server error. Now for post request, let's replace price value from integer to string. See, it is throwing bad request error. Now in case of put request, let's remove the ID from the request body. See, it is working, but ideally, this is the invalid case, it should throw an error. Now in case of delete request, let's pass the invalid ID. See, it is also throwing an internal server error. Let's change method type from delete to patch. See, this is also an invalid case. It is throwing an error like method not allowed. Let's try to create some more invalid cases. Now let's remove the request body. See, it is not working. The same thing, let's do it for the post request. See, it is throwing the error. This message is coming because of the book interceptor. Previously it looked like everything is working fine, but now you can see there are so many issues. So all the issues we are going to address with the help of exception handler. I hope now things are clear, which we are going to develop in this video. Now let's create a class. So we are going to keep this class in the different package, so let's give package name like an exception. Let's give the class name, let's say book exception handler. Let's annotate this class as controller advice. If you don't want to build every time, then you can disable it from the project menu. See, here is the option, just uncheck this. So this class extends response entity exception handler class. Now let's override handle HTTP message not readable method. Here, instead of this error response, we are going to show the response, which is the combination of status, error, and message. Now let's create the JSON object. Here we are going to add status, error, and message. So here we are getting the status from the HTTP status class. To get the proper value, we need to use status.value method, and to get the proper error, we need to use status.getReasonPhrase method, and for the message, let's get the value from the exception. Keep this code inside try block. And instead of return this value, let's return response entity object. I hope this code is clear for you. Let's open book interceptor class. Here I am just commenting this else block because instead of handling the empty request body error, we will handle that error using exception handler class. That's it. Let's check the build automatically option. See build started. Let's try now. See still this case is throwing an error. Let's post the invalid data. See this is also throwing an error. So our exception handler is not able to handle the exception. Let's see what is the reason. See it is throwing the error related to JSON. So after error JSON we need to call toString method. Server restarted. Let's try now. Let's remove the request body. See the response is different now, so this response is coming from an exception handler. Now add request body back, but here you can see price value as a string. Let's see what will it return as a response. See it is giving JSON error. Here only thing is message is too long. Now let's see how to change this long message to small message. Let's split this message based on colon and consider the only 0th index. Server restarted. Let's try now. See it is showing the perfect response. Now let's remove the request body. See it is showing the proper response. For invalid ID delete request still not able to handle by the exception handler. See like this method there are so many types of methods available. Let's override one more method, and the method name is handle exception internal. Server restarted. Let's try again. See still not able to handle. Let's change the method type from delete to patch. See it is not printing anything, that means this case is handled by handle exception internal method. See here it is printing the message, so here instead of using same code again, let's create the private method and move this JSON related code. Don't worry, changes are simple. Let's give private method name like prepare error JSON. I hope this code you guys can understand easily. Now let's replace error JSON code to newly created private method. Now use this same line for handle exception internal method also. Server restarted. Let's try now. See it is working, the patch is returning the proper response. Let's quickly demo all the scenario which is handled by the exception handler. Only thing is to delete for invalid ID is still not working. Now let's replace this 8 with 8 in string. See even for this case also it is working fine. The only invalid ID case is not working for delete. Now let's try the get request for invalid ID. See even for this case also it is throwing an error, so let's see how to handle this invalid ID related scenarios. See in both the cases we are getting the same error, and that is an internal server error. Before handle that scenario, let's quickly look into the code which we added till now. First, let's create a custom exception. Let's create the exception class. Class name let's say book not found exception. This class will extend runtime exception. Let's generate serial version UID. Now let's create a default constructor. Here let's pass the string for message. Now call super and pass this message. And that's it. Now we need to throw this book not found exception when the case is invalid. Let's see how to do that. Let's open book resource implementation. So in two cases exception handler not able to handle the exception, and those cases are when we query using get method for invalid ID or when we are trying to delete book with an invalid ID. So in these two cases, it is throwing the internal server error. Here is the method find by ID. Let's go to the service class. If you see here we are using get method after find by ID, because after Spring Boot version 2, code upgraded according to Java 8, so find by ID is returning optional book instead of an actual book object. Now let's remove this get method. Now we need to change method type from book to optional book. Same return type we need to change in iService interface also. See replace T with optional T. Okay, now this service layer related changes are done. Now instead of directly using Let's hold the value in book variable. So there is a method in the optional class and that method is present, so let's use this method. Here we need to add not also. So if this is the case, then throw book not found exception. Here pass the message like the book not found. I hope this code is clear for you. See here the message is like no value present. Let's try now. See the error message is changed now, showing a message like a book not found, so this error is throwing by logic which we added just now. Now let's add similar code for delete method also. Now let's check the delete request for invalid ID, just observe the message. See the message is coming like the book not found. So the custom exception is working as per the expectation, but we don't want the error like that, so instead of throwing everything what we want like in this scenario also response same as the exception handler. But this case handle related methods are not able to handle this scenario. See here we created controller advice and extends response entity exception handler. Now let's create one more exception handler for custom exception. So let's create a new class and class name let's say book custom exception handler. Annotate this class also as controller advice. This class we are not going to extend response entity exception handler. Let's create our own method. So here return type is response entity. Generic value is a string. Method name let's say book not found exception. We need to annotate this method as an exception handler. Here need to pass value parameter and the value is a book not found exception. Class method parameter also here is a book not found exception. Here also we are going to prepare error JSON. So let's copy the code. Now let's prepare the response entity and return. Here string is not required to specify. Now call a private method. So here exception is coming from method parameter, but for status let's create HTTP status object. In this case, we are using not found HTTP status. Now pass this HTTP status. Response entity constructor expects two parameters, one is a generic type and other is the status, so pass status also. Okay, now changes are done. Let's check now. See it is working. Let's check for delete also. See here also working as expected. See most of the cases we handled. Now let's handle some more scenario. Actually in those cases we are not getting any error, but instead of pass directly it should give an error response if a request body is not proper. Like here you can see method type is put and if the request body doesn't contain the ID then instead of updated is saving as a new record. So this scenario is not correct. Now let's handle this scenario. So here let's add simple check like book.getID is null then throw the exception. Change this message to proper message. Let's check now. See it is not allowing, and it is giving the error response. I hope whatever the changes we added is clear for you. Let's quickly review the changes. See here we are using the same custom exception for 3 cases. Let's create one more exception. This exception name is quite generic. Let's create a new class. Class name let's say application exception. This class code also same as a book not found exception. So that's it for this class. Now in case of update let's throw the application exception instead of the book not found exception. Let's add a similar kind of scenario for save also. Like in case of save ID must not be the part of request body, so if it is then throws the error response. I hope this case also is clear for you. See, we are throwing different exception now. We need to create one more exception handler. Let's copy this and add required changes. Change the exception, so instead of the book not found, change it to the application exception in both the places. Here instead not found status, change it to bad request, and that's it. Let's check the save and update cases. See, the status is changed. Now let's include the ID in case of save request. OK, here is giving JSON parse error because the price is in string format. Let's change it to number. See, this response is throwing using application exception. Everything is looking perfect. So like we found so many invalid cases, we can find some more, but not this time. See, we saw how to add multiple custom exception as a part of the exception handler. See, one more thing we can change, so this private method is using two places. Let's move this method to a utility class. So let's create new class and class name method utils. Let's move this method. Let's add the default constructor. Now paste the method and replace private to public static. Now let's make it this class singleton using a private constructor. Now let's see how to use this method. Just use method utils before the prepare error JSON. See, everything is perfect now. Now let's demo everything in one slot. See, most of the cases are working now. Now let's review quickly everything in one slot. I hope you can understand whatever we implemented. I checked in my changes. I will show you from where you can find this code. See, here are the changes. I hope this video is helpful for you. That's it for this video. Please like and share this video. Subscribe our channel. Thanks for watching.